Brodes Media.
CJGJ headed to Houston. I didn't think I saw this coming, but I'm still chilling. Howie's going to cook. In Howie, I trust. I always think of it like this, and it's simply put, but knowing the competitor Howie Roseman is, it's Kobe. You should never have to question Kobe's effort. He's in the gym at 5 a.m. He goes through 2 workouts before someone's even up. He's going to do everything in his power to play the best ball he can on that given day. You don't ever question the effort. I don't know if Howie Roseman's going to knock out of the park every tiny decision made, every big decision made, every average decision made. I don't know. But I don't think I got to question the effort level of a man that is as fierce as he is. He is the best of the best. And this could just be a product of actually having to, quote, pay the price after winning a championship. We'd sign up for that any day of the week. Yo, you win a Super Bowl the following year. You're a good team, but a lot of your big free agents will get overpaid in free agency. And when you look ahead and preview what you're about to pay Q, what you're about to pay Jalen Carter, what you're about to play Cooper DeJean, this is our version of paying the price. People think it comes looking like Dak Prescott 60 mil on the books. People think it's something where it's a large cap hit that you can't just maneuver around. It's not that. How we can manipulate it to the point where we are still going to field a highly competitive team at the top of the NFC, fighting for the NFC East. But this may be our version of you got to pay the piper. And guess what? If that's the case, you got to appreciate it. I'm definitely never going to lose that perspective because that's the damn truth. You just saw what Myles Garrett got, right? What do you think Aaron Donald 2.0 is going to cash in at? You have to start thinking about that now. You don't say, oh, well, there's X amount of years left on the... Yeah, exactly. You want to be the Cincinnati Bengals and T. Higgins? You don't play that game. You got to start working with Howie Roseman early. CJGJ was on a stream, and he said something very similar to that these young cats, they deserve an opportunity to get the bag. No hard feelings. And he goes to Houston. Then you get a backup guard / project in return. I don't know what he's going to end up being. He was a first-round pick that failed. Sounds a lot like Mekhi Becton, doesn't it? And Mekhi Becton was a tackle. This guy was at least a guard. Played the other side of the line. And I don't know what he's going to be, but I trust Jeff Stoutland. If Jeff Stoutland goes, yeah, that skill set, bring him on in. I mean, Mekhi Becton just went from I'm out of the league to Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl starter on one of the best offensive lines the Philadelphia Eagles have ever seen. Think about what the importance of that statement truly is. You know what I mean? Come on, man. So for everybody screaming, we can't let Mekhi go. And I do agree that if you bring back Bond and Becton, it's going to taste a lot sweeter. It's going to feel a lot nicer. And you still have the opportunity to do it as the time of this recording. Who knows? Whenever you get hit with an Adam Schefter bomb or rap sheet, it could happen at any point, any time, 1:30 a.m., 2:50 a.m. You don't know. Whenever you don't refresh Twitter for 15 minutes, you almost have a heart attack every time you go to the top. Now, maybe that's a personal problem on my end, and it probably is. Here's something that you also have to note. CJGJ is a pain in the ass. He's a headache. Now, some fans feel all goo-goo gaga towards CJGJ, and they're heartbroken, they're devastated, they cannot believe it, they're going to lose sleep. CJGJ is a good player. Don't you dare ever say that he's the life and blood of this defense when Cooper DeJean has the highlight of the year where he picks up Derrick Henry and throws his soul into the turf? You're going to tell me that CJGJ, he's a personality. He's a really good starter for you within the Vic Fangio system. Darius Slay, a big personality, but they filled a solid spot on the defense. They're not the pure life of it all. CJGJ being the one in particular I'm referencing here, but I applied Slay to the conversation. I think they're closer to expendable than not. Jalen Carter isn't. DeJean isn't. Q isn't. Bond, all pro. He went from 1 year prove it deal that you play a position you've never really attacked like this, and he becomes the best in the entire league. You are spitting in the face of those men. CJGJ was a part of that. He played an important role into that. He's a good NFL starter. But it's weird to have that type of skill level and watch yourself leave the Saints, New Orleans, leave Philadelphia the first go around, leave the Lions to come back to the Eagles, and then you're shipped out again. Don't you think that there's probably a correlation between his obnoxiousness and his pain in the ass and the fact that he's that talented but hops around teams nonstop? I do believe it was a financial move more than anything. But at the same time, down the road, you know, everyone's like, Burks only got paid this, and Isaiah Rodgers only that. Yeah, but if you add that all up, what you're saving with no longer having CJGJ, not paying Burks the couple $1 million he made for his contract, Isaiah Rodgers going to Minnesota. And let me tell you something. If by the end of this season, you sit down and you study who the Philadelphia Eagles were, and your takeaway was, if we had Isaiah Rodgers, we are winning a Super Bowl, I'd be floored. There's no way Isaiah Rodgers either makes this team sink or be at the top of the top. If that's the case, then shame on Howie, because Isaiah Rodgers ain't that good. And maybe Ringo's ready. Think of it from Ringo's mindset. He had a cup of coffee, he had some experience, and then he watches Slay all day, and then he watches Q all day. I can't shake that from my brain. And if they think his skill set is up there, and there's plenty of reasons to believe it is, he has shown signs of really nice ability on the outside. Maybe he is ready, and they are right. Last year, everybody assumed that this defense was going to be middle of the pack. And they were the best defense in the league. And something that you also have to realize, I was thinking of the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Because the question is, how do they do it? Well, Pat Mahomes is rare. Tom Brady was a dynasty, rare. Other than that, you don't see the type of success that those two QBs and franchises had. And I acknowledge it. The Eagles are probably the next closest thing, and they're in a different wave of dynasty. They're not that. But they still have 3 Super Bowl appearances in the last 8 years or so, winning 2 of them. I'm saying that's the next best unbelievable thing outside of what Pat Mahomes is, which isn't human, and Tom Brady's ridiculous ass. When I was watching the Chiefs, I realized there was a transition period. It was all about what Andy Reid, the quarterback, the offense, and how they do things that are out of this world. But then it became the Spags show. Wow, don't disrespect that defense. Go look at how Spags is sending unique blitzes. Whoo! Wow, Chris Jones. Wow, that defense. Wow, Spags. It turned into a defensive show. So maybe the key to this is that passing game improves. There's still another element to this offense. As great as they were running the rock with the defense, maybe this year they are selling a lot into the fact that they think they can improve internally just by Saquon, AJ, Devontae, Jalen, this O-line, Kevin Patullo getting in there and now being a part of this as an OC instead of a passing game coordinator, which his fingerprints were all over this. I can't pretend that's not an important detail here, but maybe they are putting a lot of stock into that. So if your defense isn't 1, okay, but they are 6 in the NFL, and your passing game throughout the regular season looks more like what it did in the bowl. Look more like when you're putting up 55 on the Washington Commanders and you're bending them over, right? Maybe you get to add a couple more where you move up 5 or 6 slots in the passing game. Is that still a dominant force that just looks different, where it's not going to be identical? Running it back is difficult. Just saying, more from a personnel standpoint. The money, you just can't compete with the Milton Williams stuff. You can't compete with the money that's getting thrown around for these nice starters or these rotational pieces. You're paying them to be stars, some of them, which is just crazy. So, yeah, I mean, when I look at what Howie Roseman has done, I'm feeling like they know what they're attempting, and it was going to take a long time. Howie mentioned that there's more football than just legal tampering. There's more football than the NFL draft, and there's more to this as you sort of embrace the start of the season. There's a lot that you can do, and he's right. I've seen him get the big fish all over the place. Doesn't matter what part of the offseason it is, he can just go into Howie mode and spin something miraculous. This was the same time we thought Bryce Huff was a good signing after he poured out double-digit sacks and thought he'd only be able to do more with the success next to Jalen Carter. You know how bad it's got to be and how rough you got to play to not generate anything and not even be worthy of dressing? Vic Fangio, he put the hammer down quickly. But that could also play a role in why CJGJ isn't here anymore. As much as I think the number one reason is, let me make sure I study the blueprint on how we're going to use our finances moving forward and looking ahead at the back end of the books for CJGJ when it's time for him to need to get re-upped and it's time for him to get more dough. He is just going to be terrible to deal with. And on top of that, Vic Fangio goes, I can't do it again. I can't do it again. He likes to work with a ton of talent. But at the same time, if we got to shed money and we're looking at him as a reasonable option, it didn't help that he doesn't stop running his mouth. It doesn't help that he's on social media calling out Slay, and both of them just look like 10-year-olds.